Hello and welcome to the Ending Body Burnout Show. We are your hosts, Chris and Philly, co-founders of a multi-award-winning functional medicine practice, serving busy people with energy, mood, and gut issues.
While busyness, addictive doing, people-pleasing, and perfectionism might be the norm, it's not normal, and it's a major contributor to health issues.
Our goal with this show is to give you a holistic root cause approach to healing your body so that you don't have to continue doctor or diet hopping or popping a gazillion supplements hoping something might stick.
So get ready to heal your body, get your spark back, deeply connect with yourself, and step into the life of your dreams.
Let's dive in. G'day guys and welcome to this episode of the Ending Body Burnout Show. We have an interesting one today. We have a question from one of our listeners and it's a really interesting topic, something that I know this listener in particular has had a problem with, and personal experience. Chris has also had, I have also had this experience in the past as well. And so we'd like to share our take on this.
Shall we share what the topic is?
Yeah, let's get into it. Yeah, haven't introduced the topic.
Okay, so it's Revenge Bedtime Procrastination, which is a real label, and we'll talk about what that actually means. In true Ending Body Burnout style, we're going to be digging into this phenomenon. I can't say that word very well. Phenomenon from a holistic, metaphysical, and physical stance. So looking at the body and the mind and what's going on underneath the surface. And of course, we'll also give you our view on the deepest root cause of why some people stay up late even when they're exhausted. So this listener actually sent through a voicemail to ask the question, which I thought was really cool. I actually...
we should do this all the time.
Yeah, totally. So she initially messaged us. She's like, I love your podcast. Can you do this? And I'm like, hey, I've got this really cool idea that what if it was kind of like a hotline? Always like a radio station where you phone in, you ask a question, maybe give a little bit more information about how it's practical to you or applicable to you, and then we answer. So we're going to play the listener's question.
Hello, Chris and Philly. I would love to hear your thoughts and advice on the subject of revenge bedtime procrastination. Why do we do this to ourselves? What's the root cause from a physical and metaphysical perspective? And please, how do we get ourselves out of this vicious cycle? Looking forward to hearing your thoughts. Thank you.
Awesome. Love it. All right.
Yeah. So a little bit info around this listener and how it shows up for her, and then we'll talk about it more generally and how it can show up in other patterns as well. So for this listener, physically, she is tired all day, dragging herself around, can barely concentrate on the things, especially study, doesn't feel motivated, has tried to use coffee, but it makes her sick, so she doesn't have anything to help her cope, occasionally has a nap, and then when it's nighttime, her energy suddenly appears and she can start thinking straight and she feels motivated to actually do things, but it's time to be going to bed. So she gets stuck in this cycle of either I can't fall asleep or I choose to stay up so I can do the things that I want that I didn't have time to do during that day. And when I want to do something, I'll end up just waiting until it's nighttime for me to wake up, and then the real work begins. Now, this lovely lady also dug into like some potential metaphysical or some deeper underneath the surface things that might be going on. And I actually might read this. So she said, I've spent all day doing things I have to, and now when everyone is asleep, there's no expectations, no interruptions, everything is quiet and calm, and I can hear myself think. I can just do what I want, be productive or not, and I don't feel guilty about it because no one needs me. The guilt comes once I look at the time and know I'm going to pay for it the next day. And I say to myself, tomorrow night, I'll be better. Yeah, that tomorrow night never comes. My dream is to flip the routine where that quiet me time when no one is around starts early in the morning when I wake up. But I'm always so tired and I can't think first thing when I wake up that I can't even think what to do next or what I need to do. I've tried so many things, even did a sleep course by Dr. Mark Hyman. So I learned about circadian rhythms and morning and nighttime routines, and I tried doing all the things. I felt like the only way to have a good sleep started as soon as I woke up. It must start as soon as I wake up. I'd be preparing to go to bed all day. It was exhausting. I felt so burnt out trying to fix my sleep. I couldn't stick to it, and I felt miserable. I struggled to get dinner ready early, so then we'd eat later, and that would make the whole routine late for sleep. My family are night owls too, not as bad as me, but sometimes on the days when I can go to sleep early, that's when someone needs something. I know these are all excuses. And when my health was improving, my sleep naturally did too, but not consistent enough. When I explained a lot of this to my naturopaths, they tell me to have a magnesium bath and have some lavender essential oils. It was all very nice, but it still didn't help. My next solution is to work with you guys. Okay, so I'm pretty sure that if you're listening, you can relate to this in some way. We also wanted to play a reel. So if you're listening via audio, you'll hear this. You'll still pick up what we're putting down. If you're watching this on YouTube, we're going to play the reel on the screen as well. It's very funny. It kind of takes the mickey out of bedtime revenge procrastination. Hope you enjoy it.
For yourself during the day, try Revenge Bedtime Procrastination. Now, I get to delay sleep to regain the freedom that I lost during the day because of responsibilities. Some call it poor time management. I call it making time for myself. I'm really tired and should really go to bed. But if I sleep now, today will be over and the next day will start and I have to work again. With RBP, I get to indulge in the peacefulness of a late night when everyone else is asleep and nobody is expecting anything from me. If you get RBP a 2-night, you can also get doom scrolling, daytime fatigue, unwanted thoughts, sleep deprivation, existential crisis, and if you're lucky, piece matching eye bags. The best part about it, it's $3.99. So what are you waiting for? Ruin tomorrow before it even starts and get Revenge Bedtime Procrastination a 2-night.
Oh dear. Okay. Yeah. So what is it? What actually is revenge bedtime procrastination? So it is a psychological term. It's not just this dude. We will put a link in the show notes, so if you want to watch the reel, you can, and also so we're referencing him and not just calling him the dude. It isn't just a funny thing. It is a psychological term just that is used to describe the pattern of behavior of when people delay going to bed even though they know it's late and they're exhausted. And the term revenge is really important in this description because it comes in play because it's a way to reclaim control of the time that you might feel was stolen during the day by work or responsibilities or children or study or whatever those obligations are, the to-do list, the things that you feel like you have to do. Okay, so some other ways this could look, revenge bedtime procrastination. So it might be feeling resentful because you had no me time today, so you escape on Netflix or the Xbox or the doom scroll, maybe even a book, which is probably a more resourceful thing to do, but I have spoken to clients who are like, I was reading until 3 a.m. in the morning. It's like, that's not healthy. Revenge bedtime procrastination doesn't always look like zoning off into Never Never Land. It could also be like, oh my gosh, it's bedtime, but I've got more tasks to do around the home, or struggling to disconnect from work or tech, or feeling guilt and shame and frustration or agitation that you didn't get your to-do list done. It's never ending, or ruminating on the past day problems and issues. So essentially feeling wired but tired. So it will show up in either two extremes. Either you clock out and often it looks like going on a screen for many, many hours, and then it's like, crap, I should go to bed. But it could also show up in the other way where actually your system just speeds up even more. It's like, oh, I've had no time for me, but I can't, I still have to do this and this and this and this and this and this and this. And your whole nervous system gets stuck in a state of fight or flight, which is essentially what's happening. So revenge bedtime procrastination from a physical point of view is your body's internal alarm system either speeding you up or maybe shutting you down to try and mask a deeper fear of not being good enough. If I can do more and squeeze in a little extra, then I can put my head down and rest and feel like a good human being. Or I've done so much and my cup is so full and I am exhausted, but I'm so resentful, and so I want to do something for me. Chris,
Philly.
you've had your own experience of revenge bedtime procrastination. What does it look like for you?
Okay, so, well, you can't change anything. Maybe you can, but you're going to fluke it. If you're not aware, it's just going to be either inconsistent or unable to change. So when I notice I am awake, it is past normal bedtime. So I know a normal bedtime for me is around 10:30 to 11:30. It's somewhere in there. I know I can have a great night's sleep if I'm out, like the sleep starts and the thinking stops. If that process starts in between 10:30 to 11:30, it's okay for me. So if I'm aware it's past 11:30 or it's getting close to 11:30 and I am on, like I'm switched on, I know that there's something off. There's something that's not working the way it could or should. And so for me, I like to think, oh, what's keeping me up at night? That's my first question that I ask myself. I love metaphor, and I'm awake, so what's keeping me up? And I just think, what am I worried about? What am I concerned about? And I go through the list. What am I angry about? What's a real threat to me? What am I running away from? What am I trying to hide? Who am I trying to fawn for or over or with? I go through a list and I just try and get awareness of the things that are happening and try and understand this situation a little bit more clearly from multiple angles. And I know this might seem weird, but at that time of night, if something's keeping me up, I've got to balance the ledger somewhere. I've got to make up for something. I need to apologize to myself or to somebody else. Maybe not actually in person. Maybe I do need to send a text at late at night, but something has to be addressed. I can't just ignore it. I've noticed it. I got to do something about it right then and there. Otherwise, that night's a write-off for me.
I highly value sleep. Gee, I'm even thinking back to when I was a teenager at slumber parties. I would go to sleep before midnight. I think like my body just like loves it. It's so good. So if these patterns of revenge bedtime procrastination shows up for me, it's usually really subtle in that I'm like, oh, I just stay up like an extra half an hour or an hour than usual, which will impact how I feel the next day. Like if I go to bed and I'm asleep, like the lights are out by 10:15 at the very latest, I know that I'm going to get a great sleep and that I wake up in the morning feeling good. And sometimes, definitely more so in the past, I would use Netflix as an escapism, where it would be I've done everything for everyone else and I didn't have time for me today. And so therefore I want to watch a Netflix episode. And it might look like for me, again, from more a subtle point of view, in the past would have been just starting it way too late, or instead of 1, 2. So there can be extremes of this bedtime sleep procrastination, and it can be subtle or it could be more extreme. It's unresourceful if you feel like it's impacting you. So the impacts that it would have on health. I think it's pretty common sense or pretty clear that lack of sleep is going to have a big impact. In my book, our book, Ending Body Burnout, there's a whole chapter on sleep, and I do talk about the body physically repairs generally between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. And then psychologically, our mind repairs and unconsciously between 2 and 6 a.m. So if you're digging into any of those time frames with your sleep, then it's really hard to heal, and it breaks your body down both mentally and physically. There's also so many studies around lack of sleep contributing to stress, anxiety, a weakened immune system, chronic conditions like heart disease, diabetes, weight gain. So yeah, I think we all know that sleep is very important, which is also why we're having this conversation. And I feel like this is why the listener sent through the question.
I almost always think that metaphysical is the reason for this happening. It could be a physical reaction to something being ingested or drunk. This listener doesn't drink coffee or caffeine or anything like that, but if you are, then you might think, this is just a physical thing. But then why are you drinking that? Why is that a thing that you're drinking? How
about let's talk about the physical first?
Yeah.
And then we'll go back up to the metaphysical.
Yeah, cool.
Because from a physical point of view, you might be having stimulants that just keep your cortisol up too high or your blood sugar levels in balance. So whether it's alcohol before bed or caffeine after 12 p.m.
Even food. Are you going to talk about food?
Yeah, like sugar, definitely. So all those foods that are going to spike cortisol then suppresses melatonin. So there could definitely be physical reasons as to why you're struggling to switch off, wind down, go to sleep. And then also I think about body systems as well. So key body systems that I'd be thinking about with sleep would be if you're in adrenal fatigue, then you're in a chronic state of fight and flight, which makes it really difficult to wind down, to relax, and to promote a good night's sleep. So cortisol, which is your adrenal stress hormone, interacts with melatonin. And so when cortisol rises, it's going to suppress melatonin. So if someone's in adrenal fatigue, and that also can look like depleted cortisol too, then it's going to cause melatonin to be wonky. And so from that physiological point of view, you're actually not producing the hormone that helps you to calm down at night and to go to sleep. Neurotransmitters are really important. So adrenaline's quite similar to cortisol. It can keep you wired and in the fight-flight mode if that's acting dysfunctionally. Serotonin's really important for a deep restorative calming sleep at night. So if that's really depleted, that'll impact your quality of sleep and ability to fall asleep. And then dopamine. So dopamine is a beautiful brain chemical. It's motivation, it's joy, it's excitement, it's energy. But if your dopamine levels have depleted, one symptom or sign that I see of that is addictions. So it can actually feed addictive type patterns of behavior, like looking for the next dopamine hit, whether that's on Xbox or Netflix or the likes on social media. Also, addictive doing is an addictive behavior that can deplete dopamine even more and then show up or cause that cycle to be even more prevalent. And then other two body systems I'd think about would be sex hormones. Women in particular, if you have imbalanced hormones, especially depleted progesterone, this can lead to difficulty sleeping, especially if you're you're still cycling. If your progesterone is low before your period, that's where women can start having difficulty sleeping. And perimenopausal type phases, if you're getting hot flushes, you're feeling wide but tired, then that will impact sleep too. And detox pathways, this is probably not really specific to the sleep bedtime procrastination, because if someone has detox pathway imbalances, that's usually where someone actually falls to sleep okay, but they wake up at around 4 a.m. and that's when the detox pathways are trying to work their hardest. And if your liver's sluggish, detox pathways are blocked up, then people can have disrupted sleep. Anything else to add to physical?
Yeah. And then there's comfort as well, like physical comfort, pain, injury, the heaviness of having food in your stomach or liquid in your bladder. So this sort of stuff it's not super comfortable until you deal with it. So that can, I know sometimes it's not the root cause, but it's just another bit of friction that if you're not comfortable, if you haven't found that routine where you stop eating at a certain time, you stop drinking, or you only drink a tiny little bit, or you go to you get your rhythm. If you haven't got that yet, it's worth working on it, tracking it, because I know sometimes it's just been as simple as, man, I just need to pee. I just need to go for a wee. Do that, and then I'm so much more comfortable. I can have a little wriggle and I go to sleep.
And sometimes it's an irritated bladder too, where you have gone to the toilet and then you jump back into bed and you're like, I'm still wired. What's going on? Oh, do I need to go to the toilet again? Like sometimes it's actually that your bladder's not full. It's just that your body's inflamed and it's irritated. And then that can affect your ability to be able to fall to sleep easy.
And so I like what we do, which is why we do it. I like that we're not saying it's not going to be just physical and it's not going to be just metaphysical. So tick all the boxes, just address all the things, make sure you're accounting for the physical. And then as we talk about now, we're going to talk about the metaphysical reasons why you might be having this pattern, choosing to have this pattern.
Yeah. So metaphysical, it's not one or the other. It's body and the mind.
Yeah.
And we also believe that the metaphysical is the deep root cause of all dysfunction, all behavior, as well as health issues. So on the surface, the way that I described the psychological term of revenge bedtime procrastination is that it's linked to that frustration, the resentment of feeling like you were doing all the things for everyone else or ticking all the boxes, all the to-dos, and now you're resentful because you feel like you lack control over your daily routines, and then you want to sabotage or procrastinate or revenge against that, and so you stay up at night trying to fill your cup up. So that's like the surface level reason why this phenomenon occurs.
Can I just touch on that real quick? Sometimes, although it's surface level, some of the reasons why we do that is because a part of us cares or loves or wants to meet the needs of the people that we've been putting ourselves off for, right?
It's the surface level, but then it's like, why are you doing the behaviors?
Yeah.
So now we're getting down to below the surface.
So it's like, sometimes I think, I've been really stretched thin. I've been doing consults all day and I love what I do. I love coaching. I love working with the people that I work with, but I've still been giving my power away to them and to my schedule, like I have a choice, I have a control. And so I have a part of me wants freedom and flexibility, but a part of me wants to connect with my clients. And sometimes it's that conflict inside of me that is showing up at 1 o'clock in the morning, and that needs to be addressed. Got to bring attention to it.
Yeah. So what's happening below the surface? Well, let's kind of break it down in terms of patterns. It's like, okay, this is a behavioral pattern that's occurring. You're staying up late at night because you're frustrated. There's resentment. Finally, you get you time and you choose to do what you want with that time, but it's not sleep. So then as Chris was talking about, okay, well, there's something going on during the daytime. Like, it's not, the solution isn't before bed, it's what else was happening during the day. And that's where in our spark process, which is part of our ending body burnout method, we always start looking at dysfunctional patterns of behavior first, because that's going to give us a lot of information around, well, what's happening at a deeper meta root cause level. So with the examples that we've shared so far, it sounds like there's overachieving and rescuing and people pleasing patterns and doing everything for everyone else and putting yourself last. And there's probably perfectionism patterns showing up too, which can exacerbate needing to please other people or needing to do more or in order to feel like you are more or to get that validation from others. So those patterns are going to be really important to identify and be honest about if you want to solve this sleep bedtime procrastination. So for me, like I say old Philly. It's actually, I don't really think I revenge bedtime at all anymore. Sometimes I still watch Netflix and it's nice, but I compare that to when I was running these patterns every day, all the time. A big one for me was overdoing. I have to prove that I am enough by what I can do. And then I'd get frustrated or resentful or crabby by the end of the day. And it's like, oh, just go to bed, kids. And then I'd want to flake out in the bed watching Netflix. But because that energy of wanting to do that thing came from a place of force and fear and resentment and frustration, this is an example of sleep time or bedtime revenge procrastination, because it's like, I'm not doing it out of love. I'm actually doing it out of resentment and like feeling like, well, this is one thing that I can control, that I can do for myself. And then I was wired and wasn't even enjoying the things that I was doing before bed. So then underneath the patterns, the next question always is, why are you? Why are you running the patterns? And there's always beliefs. Every behavior has a belief underneath. So what patterns are you running and what beliefs are showing up and causing these patterns? And we have just some really lovely coaching questions. So what must you believe about yourself in order to continue running these patterns? So if we took the listener's example at the start where, or I might stuff this up a little bit, I'm just off the top of my memory. It's like, doing for a lot of people. There's lots of responsibilities. I'm doing for everyone else. It's like, okay, cool. That's not working for you because now you're exhausted and you're not sleeping at night. So what must you believe about yourself in order to continue behaving this way? And then that'll usually come down to an identity-based belief. So I am something. I'm not enough. I'm not lovable enough. So therefore I have to try really hard to help others so I can prove that I'm lovable and that they will give me validation, or I'm not capable enough, and so therefore I have to try really hard and work really hard and go 110% with everything that I try and do and put out so that no one will find out just how weak and incapable I am. And then after that, it's like, okay, well, let's go back into the past. When did you create this belief? The importance of being able to identify that is because it'll just be a kid with misdirectional information around what happened. And then what evidence have you collected along the way to cement this belief? And so this is where bigger events along your timeline, you start finding more and more evidence that you're not good enough, you're not lovable enough, you're not strong enough, you're not worthy enough. And then your whole system is creating neural pathways around these beliefs so that they feel real, but they're not. But they're driving and dictating your behavior, your thought patterns, and literally the state and health of your body.
My favorite coaching frame is you have the life that you wanted, including staying up to all hours. Like this is what you wanted, warts and all. This is the fine print of the contract you've signed with yourself. This is the fine print of the agreement that you created for yourself. And just like every phone, you go into Telstra, you can renegotiate your contract. You can get another contract, new agreement. And now that you've got an awareness that this isn't how you want it going forwards, write a new agreement. Live your life a different way. Choose a different set of options. But you got yourself here in the first place, and I think so. I think our listener who submitted the question doesn't think this. She doesn't think victim. I've got no choice in the matter. This is happening to me. I actually think her frame is a little bit different to that. But some people that we've talked to, this is happening to me. This is rescue me with a pill, rescue me with a supplement, please.
Melatonin, sleepy herbs.
Yeah, can I have all those things?
Tryptophan.
Yeah, I just need to add more magnesium into my magnesium bath and more lavender. Like it's sniffs of victimhood. Take some responsibility. You've got what you wanted. It's such a powerful frame because you can't change unless you take that responsibility. You're just not going to see these things. You're not going to be aware of options if you don't take that responsibility first.
Yeah. I feel people get stuck with this as well because, one, like if we go back to the deeper roots around the beliefs and your whole system creating these beliefs. So one, it's ruling your behavior, which can sound victimy in the way that I said it's ruling you, but you created it. So you're actually just in control of it, but you're holding on to it. It's not holding on to you. But the interesting thing with this procrastination with sleep is that so you're hiding or running away or proving or defending from the greatest fear that you have about yourself during the daytime, which is not allowing you to create space and love for self. And it's also this staying up at night and then exhausted during the next day is a really clever strategy to keep you safe from your greatest fear as well. Because then it's almost like, oh, well, if I'm not good enough, then when I'm going to try really hard to get external validation from other people because I'm not giving it to myself. So that's the daytime patterns. And if I sabotage my sleep, thinking that I'm doing it because I love me, because then I get to have time for me, but then I know that I'm exhausted and I'm breaking down inside. So therefore, if I get rejected by these people that I'm really trying to help, it won't hurt so much because it's just the sick me. It's also the body's cry out, or your unconscious mind crying out to just slow down. It's like, all right, well, we're going to feed this cycle until you're so exhausted that you're going to, that your body is literally going to force you to just sleep, to stop. Something has to change. So if we go into breaking the cycle, so you were giving some good tips before in terms of taking back your power. Even if you just start really basically, just start recognizing and be truthful about staying up late and why you're staying up late. So ask yourself some questions. Why are you staying up late? Are you feeling overwhelmed during the day? Do you lack time for yourself? Why are you staying up late? You have all the answers inside of you. So you know. And then from there too, you have a choice. It's like, okay, I see it clearly. I kind of knew it already. You can either choose to continue the pattern and maybe find some happiness in that. Or if it's like, I cannot be happy here any longer, then it's like, great, do something about it. Actually get to the deeper root and start supporting yourself at a deep level. We talked earlier, when we were talking about the physical components that might be impacting this, creating a nice nightly routine can be a really kind of quick win place to start. So if you're not already winding down 1 to 2 hours before bed, switching off the computer, turning off the screens, reading, meditating, taking that bath with the magnesium and lavender. If you're not already doing this or you haven't tried this already, this is just a really lifestyle, practical thing that you could try that might get you over the line to start going to bed at night.
I would add to that some sort of a journaling thing, a journaling practice, not to wire yourself up. Some people find that this is a wiring, like it really amps them up. Philly and I have a marriage rule. We don't talk about business. We don't talk about
DNMs.
Yeah, we don't have
Before
DNMs
bed.
right before bed because that just wires us up. It's not the time and the place. That can wait till the next morning. But if we have to say sorry and we're up to the sorry stage, I think that works really good because then we can get a good night's sleep. So there's some nuances to our personal marriage rule. But a journaling practice, get some stuff out of your head and just reflect on what you're going to do tomorrow, what's coming up, what's on the cards, what are you grateful for, that some of the wins that you've had in your day, and what's on your mind. And also, just so you're not thinking about the stuff when you should be asleep or when you could be asleep, right? When it's a better option to be asleep, is think about the stuff now. Get it out of your head, get it onto paper where it belongs so that tomorrow you can look at it, you can reread it. Thoughts that you just try, it's like a computer, an old computer. Our brain just needs to turn off and on. And so get the files out of the computer, get them out of your head onto some paper. It's so therapeutic. And I highly recommend that when somebody has a can't fall asleep, I'm thinking about stuff problem.
Restorative breath work can be really helpful too. By restorative, I'm not talking about holotropic, kind of like hyperventilating breathing, but just like really deep breaths out longer than the breaths you take in, because that immediately switches you into the parasympathetic nervous system, which is what we need to be in order to fall asleep. I mentioned our book earlier with the research and stuff around sleep. There's also in that chapter more sleep hygiene tips that you can definitely read into if you want to grab a copy of the book. I'll put the link in the show notes. Two more tips, and they both interrelate with each other, I feel, especially with this specific topic. So reclaiming time during the day. Okay, yeah, nice to have a nice nightly routine, but if your day is full to the brim, then you'll probably be fighting against yourself when you start getting to the nightly routine. So how can you create more me time? How can you schedule in more short breaks throughout the day, whether it's breaking from work or from parenting or from study or whatever it is that is taking up a lot of your time, or from helping other people? Even if it's just 10 minutes, like literally 10 minutes of doing something that you love that can help you feel more balanced, experiment with that. When I started looking at my sleep patterns and really pinpointing that it's like, it's not my sleep, it's what's happening in the day, as little as 10 minutes to stop and lie in the sun or go for a walk on the beach, or to do a more of like a somatic type practice, or to just have a conversation, like a real conversation with myself. Far out, that started making so much difference. And 10 minutes isn't a long time. We had a guest on our podcast and also inside our program, Gemma Hanley, who is just epic at creating boundaries, keeping them, creating really lovely relationship with self and others. And she shared 3 questions. So when you wake up during the day, especially if you're in this revenge bedtime procrastination cycle, ask yourself, what state am I in? What state would I like to feel or be in instead? And how can I give that to myself in the next 24 hours? Even if it's like a micro thing, or maybe it has to be a big thing, whatever it is, but how can you give that to yourself in the next 24 hours? Such a beautiful, beautiful 3 questions that can not only solve and help support the sleep side of things, but it will help in any type of healing.
I have one additional one to what Gemma just said there. I actually love those questions so much. And this one, it's not really a question. It's just do the opposite. So if I've been sitting down for a long period of time, say doing calls or coaching, which I love, then doing the opposite. What does that look like? So if I'm sitting down, well, I'm going to lay down. If I've been still, well, I'm going to move. If I've been moving, well, I'm going to be still. If I've been inside, I'm going outside. If there's been a fan, then I'm going into the breeze. If there's been an artificial ring light in front of me, which there is right now in our studio, I'm going to get some sunshine. If I've been rugged up, I'm going to get cold. If I've been hot, if I've been cold, then I'm going to get hot. So I find flipping it works really well as well. If those questions if you're struggling with an answer, like what state am I in? If you think, all right, well, what have I actually been doing with my body?
It's very yin yang.
That's what I just said.
Feminine, masculine. Yeah.
Yeah. If I've been more masculine, what's more of a feminine thing? If I've been, more doing, how can I be? Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I like it.
This whole issue is a feminine masculine issue. It's almost like you're masculine, you're putting out too much during the daytime, and then you're feminine trying to receive during the nighttime, which the most feminine thing you could do is just drift off to sleep. Wouldn't that be wonderful? But that's not happening because of all the reasons we've spoken about. The last helpful tip to break through this cycle would be boundaries. You're obviously doing too much. If you're in this pattern, you're doing too much for other people, or might it not even be other people? It might be projects. It might be your work, your business, that it's just like, oh, I just got to do the next thing, got to write the next book, got to win the next award, got to create the next course. By the way, these are just like my old personal experience ones. It's like, what else can I do to like tick the business boxes? How can I make more money? And so there's going to be some there's going to be some boundaries that need to be put in place, either energetically around yourself against other people or your to-do list. And so this is huge. Like I've had many conversations with new clients that just say, oh, I just need to put some boundaries in. And I'm like, sure, go for it. Like if that's helpful, totally go for it. And it's going to be really unsafe at the moment. So I actually find people really struggle with boundaries because of the deeper root core stuff that we were talking about. Until you can review the deep beliefs, the deep fear that you have about yourself, like identify it, review it, upgrade it, and then clear it. It can be really scary to create boundaries for your unconscious mind, because it's like, no. If I put boundaries around other people, then who's going to validate me? Who's going to tell me that I'm a good human being? I can't do that. Oh, no. Or what? If I stop working so much, it's like the whole world is going to fall apart, and then like, I'm going to die. So boundaries really important, but it usually comes later. It's safe to do it later because then you deeply love, trust, and accept yourself, and it's easy to put those boundaries in. But I mentioned this in the podcast because maybe it can be one thing. Maybe just like one little thing. What's one thing that where you're giving away your power too much that would feel like a safe way to put a boundary into that? Yeah. Don't know if you've got anything else to add to that.
Yeah, just keep digging into those root causes, these deep, mean accusations that you're telling yourself. I love the frame around fitting your oxygen mask last is it's like martyring. You're being a martyr. You're giving your life to the people that you care about, or prostituting yourself. So you're giving of your body and your soul to the satisfaction of others, so others can get their jollies off on your sacrifices. Sometimes those frames are enough to just kind of like, whoa, they're sharp enough that they can kind of cut through the crap that you're protecting yourself with. And these, I find they work really well because they're so blunt.
Yeah. You know what? I've just got one little thing to add about boundaries. As Chris was talking, I was like mulling that over in my head.
Mulling?
Mulling it.
Mulling.
Mulling.
Mulling. I was donkeying this over in my head.
Mulling it over in my head. I like a question you could ask yourself is, how can I carve out some time for me during the daytime? That's sort of where my head went when I started doing more like the boundary, the strategy type work was, okay, I feel resentful by the end of the day. So there's something not right. There's something out of whack during my daytime. I know it's because I'm not connecting with myself. So how can I create that time, and what do I have to sacrifice or let go of instead, or do less of? Like a big one for me was doing too many coaching consulting sessions. And so then it's like, and you know, I didn't want to say no to people. We had a period of our business.
So why do you do that? Because I didn't want to say no. Why would you not want to say no?
Well, yeah, like we had a period in the
past,
in our business where it just like, it kind of like exploded in terms of like leads, new clients, new signups. And it was everything that my heart ever wanted. Like, I'm like, I want a thriving practice. I want to make a big impact. It's going to be wonderful. We're going to get there one day. And kind of like overnight, the scale tipped. And I just lost all boundaries around how much work I do with our beautiful clients. And my calendar got very full. I was just like, yep, I'll work with you. Yep. Oh, yeah, you're perfect. Oh, yeah, we can totally solve your issue. Yep. Now, I mean, we were getting paid for it. So that was also part of the why. It's like, well, I don't know, like I had this like money scarcity, feast or famine type thing. So it's like, okay, well, the famine is broke. Quick, say yes.
And Chris is at home sunbaking. Just enjoying being in his state.
But I knew, well, my body spoke to me very loud and clear. So probably it might have been like a month, maybe even 2 or 3 months into saying yes, and filling my calendar up too much. I was being interviewed on a podcast and I had a massive histamine reaction. The morning of the podcast, I could even see my face was like blowing up. And this hadn't happened for a very long time. So it was a clear, like, broken rapport signal. Something's out of whack. And during this podcast, I fainted in the middle of it. It was actually a doctor was interviewing me. So that was kind of funny.
It was a great recording.
It was a great recording. We'll one day show that. Maybe we will share that now. But anyway, that was a clear, like, oh, okay. I've broken some rapport with self and I need to do something with my calendar because I don't want to get burnt out. We help people overcome burnout and I'm like, I'm not going back down there. And I wasn't burnt out at that stage, but that morning, that day and what happened to my body was just such a slap in the face that it's like, okay, I'm ready to change now. Let's put some boundaries in. And then I like got very clear on what my calendar looks like with working with clients and the amount of time I put into the business as well.
I remember exactly where I was at that time. I was
at the
beach going for a swim and I got a call from the doctor.
Well, I was really ticked off because he was supposed to be doing the interview with me. And he's like, nah, you'll be right. I'm going to the beach. And here I am, Philly doing all the things. Chris over there in the beach. And then like...
My unconscious knew that there was a lesson that you needed to learn.
and then as I'm interviewing this beautiful woman... Oh, hang on. Was it my podcast or her podcast? I was interviewing her. We did a podcast swap. So Dr. Mary, it's actually on our, it's on our podcast. Back in, I don't know, last year or the year before. But I was asking her questions around how she navigated her own burnout and she was talking about boundaries and self-love and self-care. And I'm like feeling in my body like how angry I was at Chris. But a frustration with others is always a frustration with self. So it was just good. Like this pressure cooker that was building up inside my system to say like enough is enough, settle down, Philly. let's get your boundaries back in place. And I very did quickly, and everything has been great since.
That's so funny. That's awesome. I
All
love
right.
it.
Yeah, I wasn't planning to share that story, but there you go.
Bonus.
All right. Hopefully that was helpful
And entertaining.
and entertaining. It was a bit of a different potty today. All right. We'll catch you all next week.
Catch you later.
Thank you so much for listening. We so appreciate you. If you'd like to give us extra smiles, drop us a review and spread the love by sharing this episode.
You can also rate your own state of burnout and the root cause contributors by taking our Ending Body Burnout assessment on our website. And if you're interested in learning about our group or one-on-one Ending Body Burnout programs, shoot us a DM via Instagram or Facebook.
Have the best day ever.